Okay, so welcome to 2JZ Garage. So I just picked this up yesterday. It was a pretty good deal on Facebook. And this is basically, okay, that's basically the same as what's in this car. So this is a GE non-VVTi. Obviously it's got a lot of work done to it. But this is the exact same thing, exact same motor, exact same head. Anyway, I found this, like I said, on Facebook, and it was a pretty good deal, so I went ahead and picked it up. You can't go wrong if you find a decent deal on these. They're getting rarer and rarer, so it's pretty complete, okay? I just been pulling a few things off, but I do have I've already pulled this stuff off, but the cover for the timing belt rather, the top cover, that's a 1J GTE fuel oil pump. And then here is a rear sump pan. Okay, so it all came with that. And the balancer's messed up, but that's okay because I have actually 2 more balancers. So this is pretty common. The balancer just falls off. I actually threw away the pulley right here. So those just fall off and you really can't reuse them and you can't fix them. So yeah, we'll get that off. We'll do like a basic rebuild on this thing, valve stem seals, timing belt and all that. And yeah, like this is gonna be a cheap rebuild. I'll pull it apart, maybe do some bearings, valve seals, timing belt, valve cover gaskets and all that just to clean it up. And apparently this motor only had like 130,000 miles on it, supposedly. Who knows? But yeah, this is the distributor type. And we'll obviously, this will be getting the same treatment as this. I'll machine another cam sensor. Okay, and we'll switch this over to coil on plug and, make a little block off plate. This one's from Head Games, but we can make something to block that off. And yeah, and then what I'll do is I'll use this 1J GTE oil pump, which has a pickup for a crank sensor. And I have another crank sensor too that I can use, a 12-tooth crank sensor. And then, and we'll have the cam sensor too, and then we can switch it to coil on plug. Okay, so we'll get rid of all this stuff. I'm not 100% sure what I'm gonna do with this, where it's gonna go, what it's gonna go in. But I have some ideas, and I've been searching online for a Datsun 240Z. That's what I really, really want to put this in, because those cars are going up in value like crazy. So if you can find one like that's a roller, no motor or whatever, and no transmission, and get it for a decent deal. A 2JZ swap 240, those things can go for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. So it would be worth it. I could be creating value by putting this in a Datsun. Now, you got to be careful, if I put this in another, Mustang or whatever like that, your resale is going to be horrible, because, who really wants like this car here? This car is cool and it's got a 2JZ in it and it's really fast, but what's the market for it? You know what I mean? Like if I was to ever sell this, I would have to pull the motor, put something else in it. I don't know, a Coyote or whatever, and to get good value out of it. Okay. Because there's just not a lot of people that are looking for 2JZ swapped Mustangs. At least I don't think there is. But I think you understand what I'm saying. But like a 240Z, or like a 240SX, like an S13 or an S14 or an S15, those things go for like S15s and S14s in good shape are going for like 10, 15 to $20,000, like with, not even as a roller or with a, like the stock engine. Imagine one of those and you swap in a 2J. Now you're talking the car is worth 30 grand. Okay, so yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I'm just getting at that. Be careful what you put these in if you want to get resale out of it. Okay, so anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go through a few things with it. I pulled out one of the plugs, and you can see that the oil valley is full of oil, which is pretty typical with these. It's got oil all over it. So this motor definitely needs to be freshened up as far as like all the seals and everything. So what happens is these valve cover seals leak, and then oil goes down into where the plugs are, and that seeps around the plug, and it just makes a mess. So you can really see it's just loaded with oil. You see all that oil down in there? Hopefully you can see it. But that's pretty typical. This engine is from whatever, 1993, 94 or whatever, I don't know. But I looked in here and the cam looks really good. Hopefully, I don't know if you can see that or not, but the cam lobe, it looks like really clean. And then I pulled the oil filter off and the oil looks really good. But and the guy who bought it, the guy who sold it to me was planning on putting this in a SC300, I believe it was. And I think he went and got, the rear sump pan and was going to do the conversion, but then he decided to go to a different route. I think he's doing a 1J. So, but yeah, everything looks pretty clean. Even the oil looks like it's been changed. It looks pretty clean. So, and then I did go up underneath here and look at, the cylinder walls, the ones I could see, and that looked really clean too. So this could be just, pull it apart, put new bearings, cam seals, the front cam seals, front and rear main seals, just seals, you know what I mean? And maybe do bearings and maybe give it a light hone and clean it up, put it back together. With the GE, you can make 600 horsepower, no problem, because the rods are basically identical to the GTE rods. Okay, so the only thing I'm not 100% sure of is the head gasket. If the head gasket is as good as a GTE head gasket. So I'm gonna do some more research on that. And if I do end up doing a hone and all that, I may switch to a GTE gasket, just like on this one. They fit perfect. There's really no issue with changing it. I'm not sure if it raises compression or lowers it. I have to do some research on that. But yeah, I'm not sure what the compression ratio is on these either. I know it's a little higher than the GTE, but we'll see. This one here, obviously this is strictly E85, but this is 10.5 to 1. And that's because of the pistons I'm using. I'm using Wiseco pistons that were 10.5 to 1 and a GTE head gasket. The chambers were softened in this head here. This whole head's been reworked. It was sent to Dave over at Head Games, and he put in new guides and valves and springs and all that. We're not doing that with this one. This is going to be just basic stuff. Okay, maybe lap the valves, clean it up, and put it right back together. Okay, and you can make, like I said, you can make 600 horsepower on that the way it sits. Obviously we wouldn't do that, but you could. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to be also making another manifold too. I got this flange here from Mazworks, and then all the tubing I got from Ace Race parts. So I still have quite a bit left. I have a whole stick here of the 1.25" Schedule 10. And a bunch of, I did actually rearrange all this area. I used to have a bar here and I took that out and put my welding station here. I'm looking for a bigger welding table though. I'd like to get a welding table that fits that whole space there. So, anyway, that was a little tangent. Yeah, like I said, I got that flange from Mazworks, and I have more tubing in here, a bunch of elbows and some more straight pieces and all that. So the manifold I'll be making will be more of a traditional style, not so complicated like this one where the wastegate comes out the side and, you know, it's got another elbow and a V-band. And, you know, this is pretty complicated, but this was something I wanted to try because of the way the flow goes out the wastegate. This works really good, but I'd like to make something a little more simple. So we got this thing completely torn down. Pretty much got everything off of it, got it in boxes and over on my shelf over there. But what I want to do now is I want to do a leak down test on this just to see, you know, what the health of the motor is. See, you know, how the valves are and all that. So I picked up, I don't know, it was a while ago, I picked up a leak down tester. And this is just one off of like Amazon. Pretty simple. You just plug it into your air supply. You bring this up to around 20 PSI and then check out your reading. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this up and let's see if this motor is healthy. You know, we may be able to just leave it the way it is, you know, not pull the heads off or anything, just leave it. We'll see, I don't know. But another thing that I learned that I didn't know was that on GEs, okay, if you get a GE that is like a 96 and up, it has a trigger wheel for the crank. It's got a crank trigger wheel, okay? I did not know that. I thought these were all, since it comes with a distributor, I thought that they didn't use these. But apparently it has something to do with like the OBD port or something. I'm not sure. I asked a few people on the forums and they were saying that it was for something to do with the OBD. So anyway, that's a good thing. Now that I know that I don't have to worry about a crank sensor, we have that, and I have the trigger wheel because I was thinking I'm gonna have to buy a trigger wheel to get this thing to work, but I don't now. So the only other thing I may do is I'm gonna probably do the same thing on this one as I did this motor, okay, and put a hall sensor here for the cam pickup, okay? So that means that we'll have to get a different cam because this cam obviously doesn't have, these cams here don't have, this is the exhaust cam. I could reuse that, but this one here doesn't have the pickup, you know, the little tooth pickup. It does here, but this is in the front and you need it in the back. So I don't think this has it. So all right, so typically what you would want to do when you do a leak down test is you'd want to turn the crank until these, you know, the top two or your cylinders valves are all closed. Okay, so you'd want them all closed, but in this instance, we don't have cams, so all the valves are already closed, so I don't need to worry about that. But if you were doing it with cams installed, you'd have to rotate the engine until, you know, there's no like leaking through the valves. So anyway, let me hook up the pressure and we'll see what the first one is. Alrighty, so I got the first one hooked up. The directions say to run it up to around 20 PSI, and then you look at your leakage. So this is good. It's around about 33% leakage, which is in the green. So that's cylinder number one. Let's go to the next one. All right, here's number two. Got it up to 20 PSI, and this one's a little bit better, closer to 30. So we're good there. And you can kind of go and, you know, listen. You can go up to the port itself and listen to see if you hear anything coming out, and there's nothing coming out of the ports. It's only coming out of the bottom end. I can hear it, like I can literally hear it coming out of the bottom end, which is where it's supposed to come out, you know, because you got ring gap and all that. So yeah, you're gonna hear some leakage out of there, but as long as it's low like this, you're good to go. All right, there's number 3, same thing. There's number 4. There's number 5. There's number 6. 6 is probably the worst. It's closest to 40 of any of them. So yeah. The other thing is, you know, so yeah, the other thing is that this leak down here is, this engine's cold. It's been sitting a long time. So like when you warm an engine up and get it back up to operating temperature and the pistons are going up and down in the bores, it kind of wears back in. So, you know, it'll actually get better, okay? Once we get this thing running and, you know, fluids moving in it, the leak down will actually get better. So these are really good cold numbers, okay? So yeah, I'm super pumped about that, and that means I don't really have to take this apart if I don't really want to. You know, you can, with the stock head gasket and, you know, stock bottom end GE, we can make 400 or 500 horsepower, no problem, and it'll live all day long. So anyway, here's the part number for the leak down tester. If you guys are interested in looking that up, I think it was pretty cheap. Most likely made in China, I don't really know, but it works really good. It's got a little regulator on it and really easy to read. And like another thing is like if I was doing like a really thorough leak down, what you would do is put your leak down tester on it, and then you can move the cylinder or the piston up and down in the bore. And then that'll give you a little bit better, like if there's a bad spot in the bore, you'll be able to detect it. So I didn't do that. So I'm basically just checking the valves and, you know, the ring seat. But again, like I said, if there was a really bad spot in one of the bores, you'd want to leave it on and move the piston up and down. That way you can leak down the whole bore itself. But we're not going to do that. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to share this with you, and yeah, look forward to getting something to put this in. Okay, I'm really looking really hard right now at some 240s, some 280s. Just trying to look for a good deal, and yeah, we'll go from there. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Check you all later.